Andrew Newton, the leader of the IoM Green Party, is with us. It's ahead of Tynwald sitting this Tuesday. You're very interested, to say the least, on the climate change issue that's coming up, and you've given a response. And over to you, really, because there's the proposals and there's these amendments that are being put forward in the Tynwald sitting this month.
Well, absolutely, and it's great to have this opportunity because this is a very arcane, opaque process, but actually the decision that Tynwald is going to take is of fundamental importance to the future of the Isle of Man, citizens of the Isle of Man, and of the rest of the world. And so having this opportunity to draw the citizens of the Isle of Man, the public of the Isle of Man's attention to it is really valuable.
Take us through them, because obviously there is the proposal and then there's the amendments. So
yes,
what we've got.
So as you'll be aware, and hopefully the public in the Isle of Man will be aware, all the other parliaments in the British Isles have declared climate emergencies in the year where we're really coming to terms with this crucial importance of why we need to take action on climate change. And finally, the Isle of Man Parliament, Daphne Kane, has taken this opportunity to raise the motion. She did so at the last Tynwald Parliament on 22nd of May. And there was 3 hours of debate on it, and that was really important to be there and listen to that. Well, listen to it on the radio. And so now the decision's been deferred to this Parliament because there were 3 amendments to Daphne Kane's motion. Her motion was that Parliament announce a climate emergency. And so the 3 amendments were one from Geoffrey Boot, you could say the government amendment, which really just restated the status quo, which is the government policy to reduce emissions, but it was a slight amendment to that, so to net zero emissions by 2050, whereas previously been a net 80% reduction of 1990 levels by 2050. So that was the amendment.
You don't like that one then?
Well, when the other amendment on the table was Laurie Hooper, MHK for Ramsey, which was net zero emissions by 2035. And that's the motion that the Green Party is supporting, as well as the final amendment, which was Ralph Peake's amendment, and I'm covering a lot of ground here, and that was to propose a transformation change body that works across government, introducing, implementing and conceiving and aligning policies on climate change mitigation.
Okay, well we're putting them all up on the screen so people have time to digest them. I mean, Laurie's thing is basically saying the government always misses their targets anyway, so why go for that one? Have an earlier one, it'll set your, force you more towards it, right?
Well, actually, it's so much more than that, Laurie Hooper's amendment, because in 2016, Professor Kevin Anderson from Manchester University came to the Isle of Man, spoke to the politicians, spoke to the public, and basically said, if we are to avoid 2 degrees warming on global level, then the Isle of Man and all the developed countries are going to have to reduce their emissions by 10% per year and have zero emissions by 2035, net zero emissions. He was saying that in 2016. We're now in 2019 and we haven't reduced our emissions. Mm-hmm. And now what he's saying about the UK and by extension the Isle of Man is it has to be 12 to 15% reduction per year because we've wasted 3 years, and it still needs to be zero by 2035. So Laurie Hooper is just stating what the science is stating for the politicians and where the politicians should be guided by.
Is there enough traction in Coman? Because I mean, all this going on, there was no emergency one week, then there wasn't an emergency, but Daphne was doing her thing, and there seemed to become a little bit of hoo-ha between people, should we say, on this whole thing. Do you believe the government, in other words, that's the question, do you believe they're committed?
Well, we can only judge them by what they've done and then what they're saying, and both of those has not been adequate and has not aligned with this idea that there's an emergency. Mr. Quayle stood up and said a climate emergency. However, he's got to be true to his word now, and that would be accepting and supporting Mr. Hooper's motion and Mr. Peake's motion, importantly, because of that body, transformational body across government, is going to be fundamental to implementing the policies to bring about net zero emissions by 2035. If they believe in the future of society in the Isle of Man and believe in the future of society in the world as we know it, then they have to vote with the motion for net zero emissions by 2035.
There's a combined vote coming up as well, isn't there, this month? Tell us what happened there.
Well, so the Legislative Council voted against Mr. Boot's motion and the MHKs voted for it, so then that's why that's been deferred to this Parliament, where they're all going to vote as one chamber. And so that could mean that Mr. Boot's motion passes. I'm understanding that's going to be voted on first, and that will be, if that's passed, then Laurie Hooper's motion, I guess, I'm not sure which way, but if Warren Hooper gets defeated, then it will be Jeffrey Boots that wins.
What pressure are you putting on these people?
Well, I mean, we're telling the members of the Isle of Man Green Party, and in the on media streams on LinkedIn, not on LinkedIn, Instagram, on Facebook, we're saying you need to speak to your MHKs. If you know MLCs, speak to them and say, vote for Mr. Hooper's motion, vote for Mr. Peake's motion. This is fundamentally important, and because it's all wound up in this arcane, opaque process of parliaments, people are detached from it when actually they need to be fundamentally aware that this is a crucial decision.
Now, you are the Green Party. You don't have any representatives in there yet. Is this all part of where we're going? The election time and putting more green issues forward?
Yes, so we have politicians, we have local councillors, and there's an election next year, April 2020, when we're looking for bottom-up democracy. If we can get more green local councillors, having green councillors on green councils will mean these policies are put forward from the bottom up, and then of course general election in 2021, running candidates there. I mean, the message we're giving is a positive message, but it's about we need to take action now, as Kevin Anderson says, reducing our emissions to 12 to 15%. It's like, this isn't a choice. This isn't going, it's easier to do it by 2050 than 2035. It's, if we don't do it by 2035, it's going to be the end of the world as we know it.
But yet again, just to balance this up, people are going to say the Isle of Man, little Isle of Man. What on earth do you expect the Isle of Man to contribute to the world climate change, really?
Well, the way we have to look at it and the way it's enshrined in the Paris Agreement is about equity. It's about where justice is served. And in the Isle of Man, the citizens of the Isle of Man, they emit between 10 and 15 tonnes of carbon per year when you balance off offshore carbon emissions. Now, compare that to someone in Nigeria who has like less than 1 tonne of carbon per year. It's the Western developed world that needs to change, that needs to own up. And we've known about these actions that we need to take since the first IPCC report in 1990, and we haven't taken any action. Our per capita emissions are still the same as they were in 1990. No action in that time, so action has to be taken now and immediately.